Hello, everyone. This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC and also a Boeing shareholder. We have some very bad news. You can't get any worse than this. The KC-46 tanker, a military aircraft born from an uncertified system. It appears that they're getting components in from certified systems demanded by Boeing between 2002 and 24. But as I've pointed out in many of my videos, Boeing is uncertified putting this thing together. That means your parts are in jeopardy. I told you, the people who run the certification, AS91, and not only that, your certification is a fraud. So you're sending a fraudulent... It's craziness, but let me get into this. You can't make this up. I'm sorry to tell you that. Not really, because I knew it all the time. When I opened up my business in 2011 and opened up the registration business of mine in 2012, I knew it was a fraud. And I didn't realize that Boeing was perpetrating it on you, the supplier. Unbelievable. So even in the military component of the business, thus far I can't find an AS9100 certificate that's building the F-15 fighter, okay? Some of their, from what I gather, some are in North Carolina are certified, but that's, I don't know. But anyway, Renton, Auburn, Everett, and Northfield, where I was in October 2024, nobody knew what AS9100 was. I asked. Nobody knew. The only thing they told me is that the layer of depression in the entire factory is unbelievable. At every side, Renton, Auburn, Northfield, and Everett. Everybody told me there's a haze of depression in there. Unbelievable. But let's continue with this. This goes for those people, not the management, not the higher level management. They've been around for 30 years. You got Doug Ackerman, the head of quality. He's been there for 30 years. If I was Kelly Oatberg, I'd do a massive shakeup. And he's gotta. Because Boeing ain't Boeing. And Boeing don't get going, and I'm a shareholder. They have perpetrated a fraud on the entire quality industry. And it is an industry. And Boeing confirmed the industry with the American National Standards Institute and the American National Credit Board. You cannot make this up. So let's continue. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, fellow business owners. My name is Daryl Guberman, and today we are going to expose a truth that few dare to touch, especially the ones in higher management in Boeing. And this is not for the personnel, the IM 751. This is for their managers. Their managers who should be thrown out. They should get people who are ambitious and have drive. I'm not saying everybody. I haven't met all of them. I've met a lot of the workers, though, and they say that there is a sense of malaise in the entire operation. And when you have an aircraft being built in a haze of malaise, things get missed. The truth that no one touches is the KC-46 Pegasus, America's military refueling tanker, may be one of the most suspect aircraft ever delivered to our armed forces. No, it's the F-35. 29% fighter ready, as Senator Gatz got out of former Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin when he was asked about that under deposition. 29% of the F-35. Now the Pegasus has had issues with quality issues. Let's start a hard and undeniable fact. Between 2002 and 24, Boeing's commercial line was not certified AS9100. The aerospace industry's gold standard for quality management, and yet the KC-46 was built on the same commercial line. It rolled down the same floors, touched the same tools, and passed through the same uncertified quality process as the commercial 767. Now some might say, but Daryl, the KC-46 gets military equipment later, special electronics, classified components, even military coatings. And that's exactly the problem. Because the moment those military systems, the avionics communication suites, the classified payloads were added to an aircraft born in an uncertified system, the contamination was complete. This is called commingling, a blending of certified and uncertified processes, and in aerospace, that's worse than just being uncertified. It's deceptive, it's misleading, and it's dangerous. Let me put it this way. If a doctor sterilizes a scalpel but then uses it in an unsterile room, the scalpel is no longer sterile, is it? In the same way, Boeing KC-46 aircraft, even if it was touched later by AS9100 certified compartments or departments, began life in a contaminated process. Can you fix that after the fact? You can't paint over it, and you can't certify it retroactively. And yet our military, the men and women who risk their lives, have been handed planes born in a fake quality system dressed up to look legitimate while the truth hides in the paperwork. For 22 years, Boeing projected an image of compliance while operating outside the very system it demanded of its suppliers. Every bolt, every wire harness, every inspection report tied to those in aircraft is suspect. The KC-46 was supposed to represent precision and reliability, the backbone of America's aerial refueling fleet. Instead, it may represent the greatest quality illusion ever passed to the Department of Defense. Let me be clear. This is not about attacking Boeing workers. No way. I've met a lot of them at Everett, Renton, Auburn, and Northfield in October of 2024. Great people. This is about accountability at the top. Those who sat on the ANSI-ANAB Management System Accreditation Council, those who knew Boeing was not certified, those who continued to demand AS9100, and by the way, one of the people is Tim Lee. He sat on the Management System Accreditation Committee. He was one of the bigger problems. He must have known. He can't be naive. Those who continued to demand AS9100 from everyone else, they enabled this deception, and now the consequences each our military fleet. When you have uncertified assemblies processes commingling with certified finishing operations, you have a systematic failure, a breakdown of the quality chain of custody. The result, a tanker that looks compliant but may not be structurally, procedurally traceable to AS9100 standards. And that means one thing. KC-46 is a suspect aircraft, born of fraud, delivered under illusion, and accepted under ignorance. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow citizens, those in the military, thank you for your service, but we cannot continue to allow a corporation, almost $107 billion last look, that demands AS9100 for others, yet refuses to hold itself to the standard to define aerospace quality. If the system is not clean at the source, it is corrupt everywhere downstream, and in the case of the KC-46, the contamination runs deep. Thank you. And I appreciate your assistance, your guidance, my friends. And the worst thing is, they have thus far delivered 95 of these suspect aircraft. They have, from what it looks like, they delivered 4 to Japan. They have 91 aircraft delivered to the U.S. Air Force in 2025, and they've had a lot of quality issues. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave it there. Boeing demanded AS9100 in July 2002, 7 months after 9/11. The certificate had to be AS9100 because, and ANSI-ANAB accredited because Boeing also recommended it on their supplier portal. They said third-party registers or international equivalent could be Iran, Pakistan, or China, and others, but they are equivalent to ANSI-ANAB, who are underwriters for the IF and ILAC. They take full system and also product failure. Ladies and gentlemen, I do this to expose the biggest industrial scam this world has ever seen. Every one of your certificates, AS9100, ISO 9001, and its derivatives, all of them. If you have ANSI-ANAB on the cert, doesn't matter who was your registrar, it's a fraud. If you have them in Europe with the different types of accreditation bodies over in Europe, like UKAS, Accredia, whatever, DACAS from Germany, if you have all of that, it's a fraud. Brought to you by Boeing. Boeing sat on the Management System Accreditation Committee for 22 years, giving the illusion of accreditation. And when push comes to shove, that's bad. And then when they made on-site auditors at that company an employee, a designated inspector, what did they certify him to? A fraud. 203-556-1493. Contact me. You're going to need my help.